Have you ever been asked in an AWS interview, what's the difference between a security group and a network ACL? It's one of the most common and sometimes trickiest questions out there. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding and a practical demo to back it up. In this lesson, I'm going to cover security groups and network ACLs. These are both types of firewalls that we can use on AWS to protect our EC2 instances, databases, and other services running in an Amazon VPC. We'll also walk through a quick demo to show how these rules actually work in practice. First, let's clarify stateful versus stateless firewalls. Stateful firewall, like security group. If inbound traffic is allowed on a particular port, the outbound traffic, the response, is automatically allowed back out without creating an explicit outbound rule. The firewall remembers the connection state. Stateless firewall, like network ACL. Inbound and outbound traffic are treated as separate connections, requiring separate rules for each direction. The firewall does not automatically allow return traffic. You must allow it explicitly. A client connects to a web server on port 80 HTTP. The client has a dynamic source port, like 65,188. A stateful firewall automatically allows the return traffic from port 80 back to the client's source port. A stateless firewall sees inbound and outbound as two unrelated flows, so both must be configured. Network access control lists work at the subnet level. They screen ingress, inbound, and egress outbound traffic entering or leaving the entire subnet. You need matching rules for inbound and outbound to ensure traffic flows both ways. You can set allow or deny rules, which are evaluated in ascending numeric order. As soon as a match is found, processing stops. Security groups work at the instance level technically attached to the Elastic Network interface. If inbound traffic is allowed, return traffic is automatically allowed. Only allow rules are supported. Anything not explicitly allowed is denied. Typically, you define inbound rules for your application ports like 22 and 80, etc., and rely on default outbound rules, or the stateful behavior, to respond to requests. Launch an EC2 instance and install a web server like Apache. Create a security group with the following. Allow HTTP port 80 from anywhere in inbound rules. Even if it's not explicitly allowing port 80 in outbound rules, the return traffic will work because it's stateful though. Typically, you keep the default allow all outbound. Copy your EC2 instance's public IP. In your local terminal, run this command. Curl your public IP. You should see the Apache default page content. The response is automatically allowed out because it's stateful. If you only allowed inbound SSH port 22 but remove the default outbound rule, you could still connect via SSH. The stateful nature of the security group allows the return packets, even though you didn't explicitly enable outbound SSH traffic. If you tried the same demo with a network ACL, you'd have to allow inbound on port 80 and also allow outbound on port 80. Forgetting the outbound rule would result in a timeout because the response traffic would be dropped. ACLs also allow you to create deny rules, which is useful if you want to explicitly block certain traffic at the subnet boundary. Summary: security group. Instance level, stateful, only allow rules. Commonly used day-to-day. Network ACL. Subnet level, stateless, can allow or deny. Evaluate it in ascending order.